We continue to stress the importance of ensuring that full subsidy is passed on to the consumer.
Tonight, more foods and goods are added to the Embattled Nutrition North program, but Nunavummiut are still skeptical the full subsidy is being passed on to the consumer.
Ultimately, it's kind of challenging the myth around hydro being kind of green energy.
Putting the pressure on to make Manitoba Hydro more accountable for its impact on the land and water.
Now that the search is done, now that he's been found, we're focusing on his family.
And a missing person investigation in Thunder Bay comes to a tragic end. Good evening. Welcome to APTN National News. I'm Melissa Ridgen. A program designed to make food staples more affordable to Northerners got a funding boost from the federal government today, and more foods have been added to the list of what's covered. Kent Driscoll has this from Iqaluit.
Parliamentary Secretary and Labrador MP Yvonne Jones was in Iqaluit today as the feds rolled out their changes to the Nutrition North food subsidy. That's a program that makes healthy food more affordable in isolated and remote communities.
We also know that the Nutrition North program that was introduced by the former Harper government has not worked for Northerners.
For a program that doesn't work for Northerners, not much has changed with this latest announcement. There'll be an increase in the subsidy for things like frozen fruit, milk, frozen vegetables, and infant formula, and more monitoring to make sure the subsidy gets passed on to shoppers. And additional non-food items like diapers will now be subsidized. We wanted to know, if diapers were essential, why aren't feminine hygiene products covered?
Maybe they should, but I'm not really sure if it came up in any of our consultations, to be honest with you. But one thing that did came up is accessing all the essentials for babies and for kids, and we've tried to be accommodating to those list of items that were asked for.
Feminine hygiene products did come up in the consultations. It was brought up here in Iqaluit. Another issue that made those consultations was the retailers. As it stands now, retailers are supposed to pass on their subsidies to their customers. Alyssa Pichu-Tiapik is the Government of Nunavut Minister of Family Services, and here's from Nunavut residents who do not believe that the subsidy is being passed on.
We continue to stress the importance of ensuring that full subsidy is passed on to the consumer, and remain concerned that under the current structure of the program, this is not occurring.
For her part, Jones is confident that a proposed increase in store auditing should cover any concerns.
We believe that the new accountability measures that are being implemented is allowing us to track much more cautiously and much more accurately where funding is going, how the subsidy is being implemented, and we're able to do that in a way that is ensuring full transparency.
And Nunavut residents are left to wonder just how full is full transparency. One of the most consistent criticisms of the program is that retailers don't have to reveal how much they pay for transport. Without that part of the formula, residents will continue to wonder if our retailers are benefiting more than they are. The Government of Nunavut is asking those questions, and so are Nunavummiut. Kent Driscoll, APTN National News, Iqaluit.
Today is International Human Rights Day, and to commemorate, a Winnipeg Alliance group and the Manitoba Energy Justice Coalition came together to bring awareness to something Northern Manitoba Indigenous communities have been facing for years. Ashley Branson has more.
A march and a rally took place outside the Manitoba Legislative Building to remind the provincial government that Manitoba Hydro needs to be accountable for the northern communities impacted by the hydro development. Sadie Phoenix Lavoie is the community coordinator for the Research Alliance co-hosting this event called Waniskatan. She explains why this rally is so important.
Ultimately, it's kind of challenging the myth around hydro being kind of green energy and respectful and honoring the relationship that they have with Indigenous communities. Once these stories are kind of coming out into the public, into the media, they start to see the realities that are really underplaying the social impacts, the political impacts, the environmental impacts, and that has a huge impact on the community itself.
The march started at Manitoba Hydro headquarters and ended with a rally at the Manitoba Legislative Building. Rita Monius is from Pimachikamak Cree Nation. She is one of the speakers at the rally. She says she's always been concerned about the devastation caused by the hydro development.
Well, it really affects our the land that we used to depend on, the water that we used to depend on, like for navigation, for traditional pursuits, hunting, fishing, trapping, and so forth.
Monius adds how hydro has destroyed their land to create generating stations, but shows us how expensive hydro is for them. People from different communities have sent postcards expressing solidarity and what changes need to happen. More than 100 postcards will be delivered to the Legislative Building. Melanie O'Gorman is a member of the Manitoba Energy Justice Coalition who helped put on this event. She shares what resolutions she and her group would like to see implemented by Manitoba Hydro to rectify their relationship with northern communities.
We also want hydro rates reduced for northern customers, and we want the funding, the money that is generated by the dams to be shared more evenly across the north.
Ashley Branson, APTN National News, Winnipeg.
We want to hear what you think. Here's how to continue the conversation. You can send your emails to news@aptn.ca. You could find us online at aptnnews.ca and on youtube.com/aptn news. You can also follow us on Twitter, Facebook, and Instagram for more Indigenous news. The national inquiry into missing and murdered Indigenous women and girls is winding down. The final submissions began 2 weeks ago in Calgary, where they heard from 30 parties withstanding. This week, closing submissions continue in Ottawa. Here's Annette Francis.
The morning began with opening remarks from families.
I would like to extend that we listen with our hearts as well as our ears. It's going to be a difficult week. We need to remember to be kind and loving to each other regardless of our opinions. Different family members have different opinions and we may not agree, but we also need to remember that we need to respect the other opinions as well.
National Chief Robert Bertrand of the Congress of Aboriginal Peoples gave a quick overview of his organization's history. He said Métis and non-status Indians are the most underserviced, disadvantaged of Canadians. As a result of this marginalization and lack of services and supports, there's increased risks for Indigenous women and girls.
We will not allow ourselves to be left behind any longer. To the survivors, their families, and communities, we have not forgotten. Canada knows your story, and our hearts are with you. It is our belief that the inquiry's recommendations are not optional.
Catherine Dunn, counsel for the Manitoba Coalition, reminded the commissioners that the families have been waiting for the past 2 years and are watching. Dunn says a challenge for the inquiry will be to push for political will to follow through on their recommendations.
I've listened to the questions of the commissioners. They want to know what they can do to help this along. Well, this is an attitude. An attitude that can be changed through education, that can be changed through community-based organizations that go out into the world and show each other and other Canadians what justice is. But we need to start now.
The commissioners not only received advice, but criticism as well. Susan Fraser represents Families for Justice and laid out all the Commission's failures. She said there were unkept promises, sloppy organization, and poor communications with families.
You need to urge, your recommendation should be focused on resources and capacities for families. It would be a tragedy if you built up only agencies and service providers and the families were yet again left without resources. Because the true rebuilding, the true healing will come when they are empowered
The commissioners will hear more from the parties tomorrow, beginning with the Attorney General of Canada. Anna Francis, APTN National News, Ottawa.
Some tragic news as a missing person investigation ends in Thunder Bay. We'll have that story when we come back, but first here's tomorrow's weather forecast. Over on the east coast, we've got -1 in St. John's and sunshine, -4 in Halifax and sunny. Inukjuak is snow and -11, Kuujjuaq -23 and clear. -15 and sunny in Chibougamau, -13 in Saguenay. -1 in London and Toronto with some rain, -1 in North Bay as well. Big Trout Lakes -9 and sunny, -6 and sunny in Thunder Bay. -8 for Thompson and Norway House. -7s for Gimli and Winnipeg with partial sun and cloud. -3 in Saskatoon, -1 and sunny in Regina. -4 in Uranium City and sunshine, and -4 in La Ronge as well. Welcome back. Some tragic news out of Thunder Bay over the weekend. The body of missing 17-year-old Braden Jacob was found in a park Sunday morning. Here's Willow Fiddler with more.
It's a heartbreakingly familiar ending to a search for a missing First Nations youth in Thunder Bay. On Sunday morning, the body of 17-year-old Braden Jacob was found here in Chapels Park. He had been missing since the night of December 5th. Community volunteers organized a search for the teenager on Thursday when police issued a missing persons report. Anishinaabe Nation Grand Chief Alvin Fiddler said it's a difficult time for the young boy's family and community.
Now that the search is done, now that he's been found, we're focusing on his family, his mother, his siblings, his grandparents, to make sure that they have the supports that they need to get him through the next few days.
Jacob was in Thunder Bay with his family for ongoing grief and trauma counseling, according to the chief of Webequie First Nation, where Jacob was from. People have been gathering here at the hotel where the family is staying to offer support. Chapels Park is where 17-year-old Tammy Kiash was found drowned in May 2017, and where the body of 32-year-old William Wabus was discovered. His homicide remains unsolved. Minister of Indigenous Services responded to the young person's death on Twitter Sunday night, saying she would be reaching out to department officials. Fiddler said they are working with the community to provide immediate support.
Yeah, I did speak with her this morning, and again she expressed their commitment to support the family and the community in the next few days.
A spokesperson for the Department of Indigenous Services said the minister has offered a range of support, including mental health resources and food for communal gatherings. The body of the teen has been taken to Toronto for a post-mortem as the investigation continues. Police are not providing any more details at this time. A candlelight vigil is being planned for Tuesday evening. Willow Fiddler, APTN National News, Thunder Bay.
Braden Jacob's death is just the latest in a series of tragedies to hit Indigenous youth in Thunder Bay, and it caught the attention of the federal NDP, who raised it in question period today.
17-year-old Braden Jacob came to Thunder Bay for grief counseling, and now he's dead. And he joins 14-year-old Josiah Beggs and 17-year-old Tammy Kiash and 15-year-old Jordan Wabas and so many other Indigenous youth who died violently in Thunder Bay. And they were victimized after being forced to leave their communities because the government refuses to build proper schools or provide services. So to the Minister for Public Safety, will he commit an RCMP team to work with Indigenous leaders to find out why so many young Indigenous youth are dying in Thunder Bay? No more fallen feathers.
The Honourable Minister of Indigenous Services.
Mr. Speaker, I thank the member opposite for raising this solemn issue. Our hearts go out to the family of Braden, and we are grieving with that community. I reached out to the chief today. I also spoke to the Grand Chief of the region to express our condolences. The community where Braden is from, the community of Webequie, is an area where we have made significant investments in mental wellness care. We will continue to make those investments. This is for all Canadians to work together to bring justice and ensure the safety of Indigenous youth.
Honourable.
And still in Thunder Bay, a retired Indigenous lawyer has been named the new chair of the Thunder Bay Police Services Board. Selena Reitberger, a member of the Fort William First Nation, was appointed to the board last year. An investigation led by Senator Murray Sinclair into how the board has provided oversight to the embattled police service is expected to be made public this week, as is a report by the Office of the Independent Police Review Director, which has spent the past 2 years looking into how the service polices Indigenous people in Thunder Bay. Reitberger said the reports will provide a roadmap for the police board to follow.
It's not going to be easy. It's not going to be easy. But I think, you know, if people are coming from a good place, then good things can happen. And I hope people will realize that it's not about, we've had enough of the he said, she said, people taking pot shots at each other. It's time for healing, and that's what I'm all about. So.
A neighborhood in Edmonton is in mourning after 2 children, a 3-year-old and her 7-month-old sister, were found dead in a home. A 29-year-old man who was the father of one of the children has been charged in their deaths. APTN's Chris Stewart has this story.
On Friday, December 7th, Ashton Brian LaFleche appeared via closed-circuit television in an Edmonton courtroom. He was charged with 2 counts of second-degree murder and aggravated assault. The horror that had taken place was discovered last Wednesday when police responded to a call at this apartment in southeast Edmonton.
Information was that a female was being chased by a male outside and that she appeared to have been assaulted. Patrol arrived and the female was located and taken to the hospital with serious but not life-threatening injuries.
Police searched the home and finding nothing, left. 3 hours later, a neighbor called police after a strange man was found in a garage. The neighbor does not want to be identified.
He was standing here, totally catatonic. I came from the door over there. I pushed him and I yelled at him. I got absolutely no response.
Police once again searched the home, and the 2 young children's bodies were found.
The children were subsequently located, deceased, in a room in the suite that was being used as a storage room. Their bodies were found concealed underneath piles of various household items.
Ashton Brian LaFleche has a long criminal record, including uttering threats on the Alexander First Nation and assault. He was due in court December 18th on robbery and breaching probation. He will next appear in Edmonton court December 21st. A memorial has been set up in the neighborhood for 3-year-old Mackenzie Pedawason and her half-sister, 7-month-old Mary LaFleche Pedawason, who was Ashton Brian LaFleche's daughter. A GoFundMe has been set up for the children's mother, Tamara Pedawason, raising $1,700 in 2 days. The Edmonton Police Service are expected to release the autopsy results soon on the 2 children. Chris Stewart, APTN National News, Edmonton.
More than 100 people gathered bright and early in the capital city of Northwest Territories to attend a TEDx over the weekend. TEDx is a media organization that posts talks online for free distribution under the slogan, "Ideas Worth Spreading." Every seat was taken at the first official TEDx Yellowknife Women's event. 12 local speakers highlighted the strength and resilience of women and girls. One of the youngest shared her 5-step approach on how to reach out and help those with mental health issues. She says having all Northern speakers for a filmed event was an opportunity she just couldn't turn down.
I've had to leave some of the talks because I'm getting emotional, and hearing the messages that they have to say, it hits so close to home. And hearing what they have to say, it's so powerful because the North is a very different place compared to the rest of Canada. We're a little bit behind, but we're also ahead in different ways like culture and sensitivity.
We need to take another short break, but when we come back, a dragon-slaying First Nations mom in British Columbia shares her story. Here's the rest of tomorrow's weather forecast. To northern Alberta, we've got 0 in Fort McMurray and sunshine, 0 and rain in Peace River, 0 in Edmonton, minus 1 in Red Deer, 1 in Calgary and rain. Campbell River is rainy, as is Vancouver, and 7 degrees in those communities, 3 and rain in Quesnel. Dease Lake is 0 and rain, Smithers is snowing and 3, Prince George snowing and 3. -8 in snow in Dawson City, sunshine and 1 in Whitehorse. -16 in snow in Norman Wells, -6 in snow in Waughty. Peck is in at -19 in snow. Colville Lake -14 in snow. Cambridge Bay is clear and minus 19. Clear and minus 10 in Baker Lake. Arviat's a mix of sun and cloud, minus 9. Clear and minus 25 in Clyde River, minus 23 in Pangatone, and minus 18 and sunshiny in Iqaluit. Welcome back. This next story is about how a mother from Vancouver Island overcame tragedy and went on to slay a dragon. APTN's Tina House has this story.
Everybody take a look at me. Let's everybody have a smile.
Char Wilson is in Vancouver today and doing a photo shoot with some models featuring her clothing line, Fina Wear. Everything from leggings to dresses to skirts to kimonos, all of it adorning Wilson's original artwork. She worked in finance most of her life, but after the death of her 17-year-old son Jordan in 2009, she says she needed a change.
But after I lost Jordan, nothing was logical anymore. You know, my easiest way to explain it is 1 and 1 didn't make 2. Up wasn't up and down wasn't down. That was the simple terms of how to explain it, because a part of me had just, died inside of me.
She says it was during that dark time in her life that she saw a pair of flip-flops with an Indigenous frog symbol on them, and she was inspired.
I wanted to share my Gitsan art, and I didn't know how to draw before this, so I taught myself how to use Illustrator, I taught myself how to draw, and I started creating these designs.
Just this past fall, she appeared on CBC's hit show Dragon's Den, where she pitched the dragons.
My name is Char, I'm from Victoria, and I'm here today to ask you for $45,000 for 20% stake in my business, Fina Wear. Indigenous people all across this land have one heart, but we don't share one culture. As Gitsan people, we've always adorned our clothes with symbols and formline that share a story. I would like to present to you wearable Indigenous art by way of Fina Wear.
After striking out with 5 of the dragons, she managed to finally entice Montreal-based movie mogul Vincenzo Guzzo.
I'm going to make you an offer. What I want to do, my plan is very simple. I'm going to give you $60,000 for 50%.
And for Char Wilson, it hasn't been easy, but she's been able to turn tragedy into success and wants to take her label Fina Wear to the next level.
My grand vision for Fina Wear, I want it to be authentic Indigenous wearable art, and I want it to be recognizable as a brand. I want it to be made in the least offensive way to the earth as possible. I want it to be an international brand. That's the idea, that's a hope, that's a dream. So we'll see where it goes from there.
Tina House, APTN National News, Vancouver.
Something to put on your Christmas wish list. Well, that's all the time that we have for your news this evening. You can always find more on our website, aptnnews.ca. I'm Melissa Ridgen. Have a great night.